All right, welcome to the discussion session for Tuesday, August 26th. Keith, you want to go through the...
Yep. Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's agenda, we have the introduction of an ordinance and consideration for enactment for a lease for the apartment space at the golf course. We'll have the consideration of bids received by the Shaycog Purchasing Alliance to supply rock salt for the 2025-2026 winter season. Consideration for the award of the North Garage Elevator Number 3 upgrades. Consideration for the adjustment of financial security that was posted for Concordia of South Hills Parking Garage and Courtyard Improvements Project. We will have the appointment of representatives to the South Hills Area Council of Governments. And then finally, the consideration of an appointment to the Financial Advisory Board to fill an unexpired term. That was for Terry Johnson. We thank Mr. Johnson for his service on that board. That's all I have.
Great. Let's see, first is update on the comp plan.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'm here to do my annual update on the progress towards meeting the goals of the comprehensive plan and continuing with the process that my predecessor in this role started. Both the planning board and the commission get an annual update on how far we have come towards meeting the goals of the comp plan. So you may recall last year when I was here, we adopted the comprehensive plan at the beginning of 2024, and we were very excited that we launched an online dashboard last year to be able to track progress towards the goals of the comprehensive plan. So this is available on the Mount Lebanon website at mountlebanon.org/comprehensive plan. So anyone can go on at any time and look and see how we're doing and also what things correlate with what projects are currently happening in the municipality. So being as we are basically in year 2 of a 10-year plan, a lot of our progress towards meeting the goals of the plan is about right where we expect to be for each of the 5 main sections of the plan, each one corresponding to one of our 5 advisory boards between resiliency, engagement, mobility, parks and recreation, and financial management. So on the whole, we are averaging about a 25% progress rate towards meeting the goals of the comprehensive plan. That said, we've actually started a significant number of the objectives and goal steps within the plan. So within each of these sections, we have the overall goals that are laid out, and then within those goals, there are action steps. So each one of these action steps on the dashboard has a status update, whether it's not started, started, in progress, ongoing, or completed, and that corresponds to the percentage complete of that individual action step. And the other nice thing is we're able to go in and add links to certain items. So if people are interested in, okay, this one is in progress, well, what's happening? Okay, here's a link to the discussion session presentation, and the contract was awarded at this commission meeting, so on and so forth. So we're also using the dashboard as a way to show how projects that the municipality is doing tie into goals within the comprehensive plan. So I won't walk through each individual one on its own, but as you can see, as I just scroll down through the list here, the overall goals, the big bars across, we have at least started most of them. The one here we haven't is undertake a local climate action plan by 2030. That one's not started because we're not close to 2030 yet. There is a plan for planning contained within the comprehensive plan, and the climate action plan is slated for 2029. So that's the only one of the resiliency large goals that hasn't been at least started in some capacity yet. And we can briefly look through some of the other sections of the plan as well. On the site, there's also links to the full comprehensive plan, the full appendix, the 2013 plan. So if people really want to dig into things, all the information is there on the dashboard page on the website as well. From the engagement section of the plan, you can once again see that progress has been made towards almost all of the goals so far. Some of the other ones are items that haven't necessarily been started yet, but significant progress has been made towards some of those as well. Mobility overall has the highest rate of average completion. A lot of that is because we started work on the active transportation plan this year, and a lot of the mobility goals reference work on an active transportation plan or use the active transportation plan. So, for instance, this is the specific one related to the active transportation plan, and the action steps are establish a partnership with neighboring municipality. We're doing it in cooperation with Dormont, so we checked off that action step. Put out a request for proposals, that's complete, and develop an active transportation plan, which is currently in progress. And we're gonna have some public outreach and engagement happening Thursday and Friday of this week. For the public, there's a open house on Thursday evening in this room at 6 o'clock. If the public is interested in attending to engage with the consultants as part of the project. We're still very early on in the project, so this is kind of the first opportunity for public engagement. There will be many more as we go on. Parks and Recreation chapter of the comprehensive plan, a lot of this references back to the Parks Master Plan that was completed in 2023. So as you can see, there's been progress made towards almost a significant number of these, just a couple of the overall big goals that don't have at least some progress made toward them at this point in time. And for financial management, once again, a lot of these sections have also had some progress made towards them. Actually, all these sections have had at least some progress made towards completing them. And I mentioned that plan for planning, so there were sort of specific years laid out as far as what plans we wanted to undertake. So overall, we are on track towards meeting the goals of the comprehensive plan. We're making progress towards them. And I think that when we started the plan, one of our overall objectives was to have a comprehensive plan that was both aspirational but attainable, that we wanted goals that were reach goals, but also ones that wouldn't just sit on a shelf and we'd say, oh, well, someday we'll get to that. We wanted things that we could start undertaking and working towards. And I think the progress that we've made so far in a year and a half, really, since the plan's adoption shows that staff, the commission, our advisory boards has really taken to the plan. Commission has funded projects related to implementing the goals of the plan. The advisory boards have worked towards making policy recommendations towards advancing goals of the plan, and we are working towards them. Some of them are ongoing and not close to complete yet, but that is how a comprehensive plan should be. So we're making steps towards completing the goals, and we're right on track for where I think we should be. So I'm happy to answer any questions that people may have about our progress towards meeting the goals of the comp plan. And the next presentation covers the projects in next year's capital improvement program, which will further advance some of these goals.
I just want to mention the dashboard idea was actually Commissioner Grella's, came out of a strategic planning session that we did a number of years ago with the commission, so that we'd be able to have really a user-friendly place where residents could go and track the progress of different goals. You'll see an expansion of this. We have senior staff currently working with a consultant to develop some goals that will have tie-ins to the comp plan that will also be measurable and trackable. So you'll see some additional tabs coming in terms of that. So I appreciate the suggestion, and I think it's a good one.
Thanks, great.
I just had one question. It's on resiliency, the quality of life satisfaction. So I know there's a couple items in here that are not started and some of them are further down the line. So that's fine. The one on the quality of life is every 2 years. So I'm just wondering if we
That was
have,
under engagement, right?
yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
engagement. Yep, that's right.
engagement. So that was related to a quality of life satisfaction survey. I believe that was something that the commission discussed. It was an expansion level in the budget last year because it was recommended for consideration by the Civic Engagement Board, and at that time, the commission decided not to fund the survey.
So then how do we,
Process.
so like if we have it in the comp plan, and I know a lot of this stuff is gonna come up for conversation and, not everything there is gonna get done. How do we reflect that on here? Like if the commission says, hey, it's part of the comp plan, but we shot it down, do we just not put that in there
Make a
anymore?
note on it or something.
Well, I wouldn't say not put it in there anymore, because again, you may see it as an expansion level
This year.
in,
Yeah.
this year's budget request, and you'll have another opportunity to consider if the commission wants to move that forward. And as you know, we change elected officials, so the next group of elected officials will take a different approach to.
We might just wanna put that in there, just because it's like two years will be January, right? We approved it in January. It's like technically.
January last year,
Like
yeah.
a footnote or something to say,
Right.
commission chose not to fund this for budget year 2025.
Right.
We could do
We'll
that.
review it again in 2026. That way, at least someone said, well, why is this?
Right, there's a note on it,
That's
right.
why.
I'd say discussed and considered by commission as
Yeah.
part of a budget, whatever the budget year was.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's,
Makes sense.
Just a footnote, so.
And I think for me, and I think I said this last year when we talked about this, I will say it again. If we are we're a year in. If we are significantly over 10%, either we didn't set the right goals or we aren't measuring properly. Because if we were at 13%, I'd say, that's fantastic. We are ahead of where we should be, right? Because it's a 10-year process that we are undertaking. If we are this far ahead, we're clearly not measuring something appropriately. I think our goals are good, right? But if we are this far ahead, I don't think we're pinning this in right, because I would hope to say, this year we've achieved 10%, next year we achieved 20%, and so on, because there should be a natural progression through this process. We have made big jumps. So again, which I think goes back to the whole SMART goals conversation that Commissioner Grella has been talking about for years, is how do we understand progress? It just feels like something is off here to me, in terms of kind of measuring performance and establishing kind of structural goals and making progress toward them. But I'll just leave that there.
I would think it's a bit of an inexact science to say, all right, we're really not at 22%, we're at 18.5. I mean, I would think that there's, how scientific really are these percentages?
I think, if we know what the goals are, we can write a list of 3 to 5 things that would, by definition, say that those goals were achieved, and then you can count the percentages of those. I mean, you could do that with anything. So I think if we can say we have a goal, we could list the steps to those goals and then measure it.
I guess that is one to say, how much of this, and we talked last year about, how much of that percentage was, like we take the SATs, you get X number of points just for signing your name. So how much of this percentage was to say, yeah, we got some of this just because we set up the goals, we set up this structure, we set up the boards. Okay, there's obviously a lot more work left to go. That's why I'm less, going, it should be 13% versus 22, because it's so early in the process. The question to me is more like, we get to year 5, are we around 50%? Then you've got enough time and how towards the percentage goals, if we've achieved those or not. To me, it just feels way too early in the process.
Yeah, and that could be it, right? I just want to put it in context though. If this is a 10-year strategic plan, right? And it should be intended to drive us for 10 years, right? And be a context within which we are striving over a 10-year period. Okay, well, if we're done in year 6,
No, we didn't set high enough
We
goal.
paid for too much stuff.
something's wrong, right? So how do we understand that, right? And some things, right, it's again, the active transportation plan, great. It's gonna be a report, and I'm also supportive of it, don't get me wrong, but it is going to be a report that's going to require another
Oh, yeah,
decade of work,
right.
right, to actually achieve the mobility goals. So the study itself is
The easy part. and then we're-
exactly,
Yeah.
right, so again, that's just where I wanna kind of frame this, because again, I don't wanna
Promise, I get what you're,
yeah,
like, oh, look how far we are, we can just add all this other stuff,
right.
because it's gonna slow down.
And things will fall off because we forgot. So
No,
how,
we didn't have the money for it or the resources for it, we made other choices. I mean, it's a plan, it's not a,
Right.
blueprint that you have to follow, everything.
You're gonna have 5 commissions in 10 years.
Yeah.
So,
Doesn't that
Just-
sound exciting?
just the nature of this body may make it such
Does for
that
me, for
these
the
things
whole
don't get
purpose.
accomplished.
I couldn't see his face, so I would just.
He's too polite to give me the death stare, like, could you be quiet over there, Swagger?
But aside from that complaint, it is going fantastic. I think the plan has been well. I think telling the story is important. Yeah, I just want to call that out as a way to, maybe we want to think about it.
And to Commissioner Silverman's point about some of the, you get so many points for putting your name on things. There are certain things in the comp plan that we do on an annual basis, right? Like, street reconstruction programs to make sure that our street PCI stays above a certain level, that, the level of 60, I think, is the one that's recommended in the plan. So the way I have that kind of structured is that it's a 10-year plan on a 5-point scoring scale, basically, so we get essentially a half a point every year. So like last year, that would have been half a point, this year it's a point, next year will be a point and a half, so on and so forth. Assuming we continue to maintain that number, right, that as we go on and progress in years of the plan, there's a natural scoring acceleration or increase that happens. So there was some things that like were annual items that we were already doing that gave us kind of a starting point, high water mark of a certain number, last year when we first started things, that then, this year was really just kind of building off of that. And, right, to the point, I'm sorry, I don't remember who made it, but the scoring system is kind of, inexact, right? It's essentially a 0 to 4 scale between not started being 0 and completed being 4 points, and just kind of aggregates the numbers together, right? I'm not going through each item and saying, oh, this project's only 25% done versus this one's 50% done. It's like, if we started it, we get 25% of the points. If we, if it's ongoing, we might get 50% of the points, things like that. So, there's over 200 action steps that I'm trying to track towards in this plan. So it's an inexact science, but I think these numbers do give us a fairly rough general picture on where we are towards meeting the goals of the plan. So, and I know I had a couple other data points in the memo that I sent you about just how many of the overall goals we've at least started, how many of the action steps. I think those were like 75% and 85% roughly. So like I said, that I think we have a plan that is both implementable and achievable, but also aspirational, because we started at a point where, we could get started on things. We weren't waiting for a lot of things to happen. And there's some other things where, as Commissioner Commissioner Grella pointed out, that some things, require commission funding as part of budget processes and whatnot. And, but we can make notes of that in the dashboard. That's the great thing about the dashboard. I can go in and make edits at any time to help better inform the public about certain things.
Are we ready for the CIP?
Yeah, great, thank you, yeah.
I believe Mr. Wharton is joining me.
You're waiting to get ready.
He's got the presentation.
Oh.
I feel like these two presentations coagulate very well.
So,
I didn't say
It's the word I
pretty.
use, but
Yeah. Blended very well. that
Coagulates.
so just one other, sorry, one other. You're.
What's the bump to?
Yeah, one other just final note to Commissioner Flynn's point. So last year, when we did the status update, overall, we were at about 17% complete on the plan, and this year we were about 25% in aggregate. So that's about an 8% increase for a year. So I think that's about what Commissioner Flynn was looking for.
Basically, Andrew's saying do worse.
Yeah, exactly. Slow down.
do worse.
Well, and we're gonna build off a comp plan with the staff goals that we're working on now with the consultant, to have them be measurable so that we can add to those
Yeah,
dashboards
I
as an
think that's gonna
additional.
be very interesting. Looking forward to seeing that work.
All right, so another document that kind of feeds right into the comprehensive plan, obviously, with that community dashboard, it was, the capital improvement program was mentioned a lot there. And then, surprise, surprise, we're looking out into 2030, so we have the 2026 to 2030 capital improvement program. So every August 1st, we produced this with the coordination of the planning department and the finance department. And then looking at this year, we have 39 new or continuing projects totaling a whopping $157 million. From last year, that's a decrease, about 7 projects. Last year, we had 46 projects and about $88 million in gross. Keep in mind, that's gross, not net. 2 little caveats as well. Included in those gross costs is a little over $55.5 million for the South Garage reconstruction, and then just under $20 million for the recreation center expansion and facility upgrade. So over the course of the 5 years, we'll look at about $61 million in net tax cost. That's an increase from $33 million last year. And then specifically in 2026, we have about 23 projects. It's an increase of 2 from last year. For a just under $20 million gross, that's an increase from $16 million, and then $3 million increase in the net tax costs as well. So some infrastructure, facility, and equipment. Nice little, I would say, tidbit. As you can see, the bar graph in the middle, the net tax cost in 2027 for the facility improvements, that is the rec center. So that very steep green bar there is the rec center project there. It's included with a lot of other rec center projects as well, or I'm sorry, recreation projects. But just wanted to kind of make sure that's not that's skewed data. So like I mentioned as well, we have a $33 million increase from 2025 to 2029, and then from 2026 to 2030, there's about a $30 million increase in the net tax cost. Predominantly taken over by the Public Works Department. They have a lot of projects going through, primarily, like I mentioned, the big 4 last year: street reconstruction, sanitary sewer, stormwater management, equipment replacements. But this year we actually included the Activate Uptown. So with all the steering committees, all the meetings they had, the public input, that's been included in this CIP this year. So it's been kind of phased out. I'll get into that a little bit more when we get into departmental. But again, like I mentioned, Public Works is predominantly the highest for the funds that are requested for 2026. Going down to recreation, we have the tennis center fencing, bleacher replacements, and golf course improvements. Down in public safety, we have fire trainings, the fire safety training trailer, and then the rescue tool replacements. And then for parking, we have South Garage repairs, not the reconstruction, just the repairs, the North Garage elevators, and the North Garage entry equipment.
Are the elevators in the North Garage gonna be replaced or just upgraded, or? I'm just curious.
Elevators.
Modernized, so
Modernized.
all, not only they're modernized, but all the cables inside, you can't just fix the car up anymore, you gotta fix all the guts
Sure.
too, so.
Got it,
Yeah, so we're on number 2 with what you'll approve tonight,
yeah,
number 3 will be next year.
okay.
So I just want to say for our vast public audience who may be watching this or may tune in later, these are not set in stone projects. So like when you see 55 million for, the parking, south parking garage, like all these things the commission still needs to vote on, discuss. These are items that, go into the CIP, we plan for this stuff, we talk about this stuff. So when you see 20-something million or 30 million for rec center, none of that stuff has been, we've had projects and plans and we've looked at it and we've sent some back. Some are never gonna move forward and, so I just wanna make sure that people look at this and go like, oh my God, $150 million in the next however many years. Like, these are not set in stone projects. In a lot of cases, they're not even proposed projects. They're just things that we've identified are going to need work
Holding
from a
numbers.
capital standpoint.
Correct.
Somewhere
It's a-
between a plan and a wish.
Right.
It's a planning document, and just because something appears in a particular year does not necessarily mean that it will receive funding. As we go through the budget process, I make recommendations, but then the commission goes through and may either accept those recommendations, may say, thanks, but we have a few other things that we'd like included, and we're gonna take these things out. So again, just because something appears in the document does not necessarily mean that it will actually receive funding or that it will receive funding in that particular year.
And again, feel free, any questions, feel free to stop me.
I just wanna call out the new rug in the North Garage elevator. It looks so much better. I know it's a small thing, but it was so dirty and ripped, and that kind of stuff, it just, you look at it and you think, this makes us not look good. Somebody came in and fixed it right away, it's great. Shut up.
Thank you for the input. So this little slide right here is some near debt, I would say some new debt horizon. So the near term is upcoming in within a year, and then anything intermediate is with past a year, so it's 2 to 5 years. So these are just kind of put on there to kind of give a better radar, put things on the radar for that increasing numbers and things like that. We have the recreation center renovation and expansion, and also the south garage replacement. So
In the library.
the library revitalization, that was actually a new project put on this year. Met with the library staff, they've had a lot of work done with architects and renderings and things like that, so it's coming along pretty well, and excited to see what happens with that one. Moving on to departmental, I mentioned the Activate Uptown plan, so this is primarily a 4-phased plan from the Activate Uptown. I know lots of plans going on. And so specifically, like Keith and Commissioner Grella mentioned, that not everything on this will get funded. It's more of like between a plan and a wish, as Commissioner Silverman mentioned. But primarily for 2026, these are enhancements to the Clock Tower Plaza and the so-called portal into Mount Lebanon that's coming up from the T station. So the improvements would primarily include an installation of sunshades, wayfinding signage, projection art, and some kind of seat wall mosaics. So more of a kind of a design to that entry to the municipality. So, and then moving on.
Placemaking.
Placemaking, that's a perfect word for it. And 2027 through 2029, some more heavily infrastructure there. Primarily in 2029, it's a request to refresh Clearview Commons, so there's a pretty large undertaking there. But then again, as stated before, it's not necessarily set in stone. So just a little update there on the Activate Uptown plan. That was primarily through economic development.
There's a coordination that occurs between all of these projects. Obviously, we do not want to impact Clearview Common at the same time that we're underway with the South Garage project, so.
And then moving on to public works, I know a lot of these are infrastructure-based projects such as street reconstruction, sanitary sewer, stormwater management, sidewalk improvement. Primarily also we have within this one is the Clint Seymour and Middlefields turf, lighting, fencing. So it's a pretty large project that we've kind of combined into one major project. And sure, go ahead.
Actually, not on this. You might, if you go back. Just a question on street reconstruction. Why are we not escalating the annual expenditure on street reconstruction?
We can. The direction in years past from commission has been to try to maintain a certain number. And as long as we're maintaining the overall condition index, as you are aware, we always have more needs than we're able to fund in any given year. So it's a balance between if we're able to maintain our streets at a certain condition index and not have to expend additional funds. To your point, I think, obviously each year those dollars don't go as far as in a prior year. So at some point, we are going to have to increase that number. I'll be careful how I say this, we've benefited over the last 3 to 4 years from the amount of utility work that has occurred within the municipality. When those utilities come in and perform that work, they have the responsibility to restore the road surface. So we've been getting a lot of restoration work done that's paid for by the utilities. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. My main concern, and it's the same with the sanitary sewer improvements, is that this is largely a planning document. And if we are planning for costs to stay the same, which is what this is suggesting, then quality will deteriorate, because that's the other constant. So I would rather assume expenses will go up for a planning perspective, and then recognize that we can come back from that. But if I'm assuming that, things are flat, then I'm baking in reduction in quality. So that's just my instinct. I would rather see it escalating increment, even if it's just 3% a year, to maintain some assumption of growing expenditures.
We never agreed, like, we talked about, when we started talking about the whole life cycle cost, and we never put a cap on that conversation, right? Like, we had a conversation of what's it gonna cost to, or it was even more like, almost like thematic, like, how are we going to understand our roads and what it costs to fix our roads? And then that kind of went into a conversation of, well, how do we want to look at this? Do we want to tie it to an OCI, or do we want to say it's going to be 3.9 a year? And then we got into discussions about maybe it shouldn't be 3.9. Maybe we should look at this over 50 years because that's the life of pavement, or 20 years, or whatever the number was. Then we brought bricks into the conversation and everything went to hell. So it's like, we never ended that conversation on what is the effective life over which we're gonna do this analysis. And because at one point, we had gotten to the point where we said, if pavement is 25 years, I'm making this up, I don't remember the exact conversation, but if pavement is 25 years, let's have a 25-year analysis that says, over 25 years, we should have replaced all of those roads and would have, to a certain point, maintained whatever the OCI number is that we agreed on. And then take that number, and if we do it right over all these commissions, we've got this program, this plan that says, no matter what we do, if we spend $4 million a year, or if we, at whatever cost, decide we're gonna do X% of our roads per year, then we will always have that OCI, because we're following that plan.
Right.
We never ended that conversation.
No, we didn't. And again, this is always my concern, on these types of projects, is that, the current governing bodies are inclined to be thoughtful about today, right? How are we today? I'm not gonna worry about tomorrow. And I'm a firm believer that we should be baking in assumptions about future cost. And we're wrong, there's no doubt. But I would rather be less wrong and help future staff and future governing body understand that these are carried costs of this infrastructure that we have built, that we own, and that we want to sustain to maintain the quality of our community. By keeping numbers flat, it might feel good, but I don't think it accurately reflects the reality that we want to ensure we are sustaining 10, 20 years down the road.
I agree with Commissioner Flynn. If you look at the list, some of these we have thought about that, call it the cost of inflation, whatever else, where private street improvements go up every year. Sidewalk improvement program up every year. Stormwater management up every year. Yet street reconstruction, flat. So the idea of picking a number to say generously inflation is going to be 2% every year, but some assumption that the cost of this stuff is going up every year. And it should be somehow factored in as we work out.
Like asphalt alone can fluctuate, right? But like you can come up with a number, right? Like something.
Yeah, so just to wrap up, I completely understand where the commission's coming from. So to Commissioner Gorilla's question about the brick streets, cost of improvements and all that, I quickly pulled up, this was the 2020 CIP, so 5 years ago. The number we had in there, I'll zoom in, sorry.
Thank you.
The number,
Much better.
there we
thank
go.
you.
So the number we had in there was 2.1 million, which had been the number that the municipality had used for a long time. As a result of those conversations we had around brick streets and around the total cost of ownership, we upped the number. So going back to this year's document to 2.96 million. So we have increased it over time. And what we have done in past years, and we'll do again this year, when we get to the actual budget, because as Commissioner Gorilla pointed out, this is a planning document, that nothing's actually funded till we get to the budget. So what'll happen is that 2.9 million in base cost that you see here for 2026 will be the base number that appears in the budget. And then there's expansion levels in the budget that the commission, which you have done in the past, to put extra money towards street reconstruction if you want to fund more of it in a given year.
We don't do street reconstruction that way, we do that street maintenance that way.
Okay.
For street reconstruction, it's kind of the leftover number, we use a base number generally at the end, where we're like, okay, we know we're gonna be around 2.3, do we have a little bit more, a little bit less, but we're gonna be in and around that number. That 2.9 number is something Rudy's pushed for, so I'll give credit to Rudy. Rudy's been pushing that number to get higher. rightfully so, and we agree with that. But do we have the money to fund that at that level for the manager's recommended budget? Yes, we can put a pin in it to discuss at budget time if you want to go to that number.
Just to be clear, the sidewalk improvement program is just fixing the sidewalks we already have,
The
yes?
sidewalk improvement or sidewalk expansion? What,
Where's sidewalk expansion, is it on your
So
list?
it's synonymous in this document. We can change the
Okay.
language later, but it's
All right.
sidewalk improvement is installation of sidewalks.
Yes.
Okay,
okay,
thank
so
you.
that is what
So-
page number is that for
It's
those?
21, page number 21.
I was going the wrong way.
So that does include Greenhurst Drive for 2026,
Great.
Lakemont Drive for 2027, so on, Kelso
Okay.
Road,
Yeah.
Kelso
Got it.
Road, and then holds the
Yeah.
the involvement.
Perfect.
Held
Yeah,
after
so-
that because we didn't have
Yep,
one.
so on the sidewalk
Oh, I see.
one, yes, so this is based on the January 2025 commission discussion session.
Yeah.
So I know I'm asking you to remember 8 months ago, back earlier this year, but at that point in time, we were moving forward with Woodland, it was going out to bid, and I did a presentation on kind of what's next. The commission reviewed the mobility board's recommendations, and the commission at that point gave staff the direction that the next one the group wanted to move forward with were Greenhurst and Lakemont, because of the connectivity between Bower Hill Road and then Main
Right.
Park and the high school area. And then Lakemont having connection to both up to Greenhurst, but also being a walking route over to get to Hoover as well. And Lakemont being kind of a thoroughfare that folks use when they leave the hospital to go south to Upper St. Clair and Peters Township and other places where hospital employees live. They cut through the neighborhood quite often. So that was the commission direction, was do Greenhurst and Lakemont first and then Kelso after that. And just to kind of space it out because of the amount of work we've found
Yeah.
that sidewalk expansion undertakes. I think we've all learned a lot of lessons with the Woodland project. It has been a significant amount of staff time that's gone into that project continually. I think between, I know I'm getting probably 2 to 3 emails and phone calls a day. I'm sure Rudy's probably getting double that. So it's been a lot of staff time on that Woodland project.
That's actually a good point for us to look at, right? Because we have, whatever that number is, whatever it comes out to in terms of the resident participation, in that, I wonder if staff time diminishes if we get rid of that portion of it. You know, like the amount that we have in there and the legal stuff that goes into all that, as opposed to just doing it and not getting resident money.
Yeah, just shake your head no.
You may see some reduction just in
No.
preparation of those
Yeah.
documents and the back and forth, Craig. But I would tell you, we're still gonna get essentially the same number of phone calls and
Why are you
because it
taking
runs
up
the
this tree?
gamut of issues of, you know, when are they coming back? They did this, they haven't been back. They were supposed to have done this on this day and they didn't. And just, you know, I didn't think they were gonna have to touch my wall because it's really, I didn't realize it was in the right of way. So I think we're still gonna get those.
Yep.
We may take a little bit of that out from the agreement standpoint.
Is there stuff that like we can cover? Like, I know when we did this, like we had it pretty built out with, you know, I'll say blueprints for lack of a better term, right? But like, are these just, the residents are not looking at that stuff or they're not understanding that
I
stuff?
think infrastructure of this size. and
Yeah, it's got it. Come on up, Dan.
It's just
Go ahead.
very, very disruptive. And the minute something is disruptive, it confuses people and people don't really, I mean, right now, the big thing was, well, what are you gonna do? My grass is back here and the sidewalk's here. And I'm like, it's all gonna be filled in, it's all gonna be made fine, but that's the last step. You know, I always try to equate it to a house, you know, the
But these
punch
are all
list.
easy things to put on a website or a document that says,
They
here's the
want
process, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're on people's property, right? You know, like
Yeah.
that's the challenge, most challenging thing that we do is we go on people's property.
Right.
And you're gonna get tons of questions,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people care, you know, they, you know, it's just, and the contractors are trying to do the best they can, but, you know, they're their own worst enemy too. They talk to people, say things that aren't right, and then we
Right.
gotta answer questions back on that. So it's like, turns into a bit of chaos at times. So it
They're
comes in
moving
all
along
ways.
pretty well. I go by every day, because, you know, I get a question every day. So I go by every day. and look.
Yeah, that's why I love sanitary sewer lining, because we don't have
Yeah.
to rip up people's
Oh, yeah,
backyards.
no, I gotta complain about that, but
Yeah,
yes.
that's the most disruptive thing that you can do, so
Yeah.
it's my 10 cents.
Yeah, it's just a,
Yeah, I would say
Disruptive.
over the last, over the last 3 to 4 weeks of getting 2 to 3 emails and phone calls a day, maybe 2 of them total were related to the agreements. So,
Yeah, it's all
most
about
of
the
them are about,
disruption.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. But you know what, they also love it. I just wanna say, people are very positive about the sidewalks and already talking about how people are taking walks on them, even though they're not finished. You have to step off in some places because of the drainage coming down from the downspouts on people's houses. Looks great. It's gonna be wonderful.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Just kind of continuing on, doing for the sake of time, just kind of breezing through these next ones, like I mentioned, the Clint Seymour field lighting, the middle turf and fencing replacements down there. It'd be a very large undertaking that would cause some disruption with field usage there. But we have, again, coordinated a lot of efforts there. And then also with recreation, primarily the large one is that recreation center expansion and accessibility upgrades. We had received some grant funding for that. So we do have some projects, I guess, kind of keyed up for those. But that overall project has been kind of in limbo at this point, so we're excited to see that one moving forward. Moving on to public safety, primarily this kind of actually ties in perfectly with how the CIP operates. So lead times on fire apparatus is about 2.5 years. Could vary less, maybe about a half year less or a half year more. So to receive the apparatus in the year 2028, the purchase of the apparatus will have to be placed in next year in 2026. So this is kind of exactly what we're looking at with the CIP and how a capital improvement plan or capital improvement program works. And then finally, on the parking, the kind of that impending doom in some people's eyes, the $55 million project for the South Garage replacement. So a little over 53.5 million for the actual construction, just about $2 million in planning, and then that will be as identified as a bond issue. So, and that project will be a very large undertaking. So that is pretty much the high-level overview of the projects.
One more question, just the fire apparatus, I think, is an interesting one. So that is when we are assuming it will be purchased. That number is way too low. Just knowing what costs are now, let alone in 2028. But more importantly, when are we expending funds and when do we have to contract? So when are funds expended and how does that relate to what's shown here?
I'm gonna defer to Andrew on that one.
Good. So during the budget process, there will be a note that we will not appropriate it in the manager's recommended budget, but we'll make a recommendation because the manager is not allowed to appropriate unassigned fund balance. In his recommended budget, we're going to recommend that you commission, appropriate the unassigned fund balance to then be able to appropriate funds to then go under contract in 26 and then carry it forward to 28 till we receive the. So
So we make the order, we have to have that money on the
we will
books,
assign it
and then we
during the
pay.
budget process. You know, but we can't do it in delivery to you.
Right.
But yes, it will be.
But funds won't be expended until this point in
28,
time.
correct, we'll
Yeah,
just
okay.
appropriate it and earmark it, that's correct.
So there's no like deposit required, let's say, on this,
There may be at the chassis, but that'll probably be when the construction starts
okay.
of the
Right, which
chassis.
is
We've done
still
that
ways
before, so, you know, when the chassis is built, we'll then pay them for the chassis and then the upfit is then embarked upon.
Okay.
Seems like a business opportunity.
Oh, it is.
Oh, there's such a sordid story.
Oh, that's a whole separate discussion.
Yeah, that's a whole
Let's not get into that
conversation.
now. Let's talk about the public works culvert.
He knows we're gonna go off on a tangent.
Come on, Keith Christophel is chomping at the bit to talk fire apparatus.
Man. Crooked.
So while Dan's making his way up, you've heard us talk before about the public works culvert
Yeah.
and the need. We've done some repairs over the years. It needs some additional repairs. But you will see an agenda item on the next commission meeting to approve this expenditure, and I wanted to make sure that the commission was informed and aware of So Dan can give you some background.
Let's share. Share my screen, Nick.
Assist here.
I swear, how do I share my screen? Oh, there we go. Great. Sam?
Yep.
Okay, here tonight to talk about the Public Works culvert. Just some basic statistics on the pipe. It handles a watershed that's tributary to Painter's Run. Basically, it drains everything from Washington Road that you can believe that goes through the backside, comes down through the valley, everything that comes down through the rec center and all the way along Cedar Boulevard, we have to carry through a pipe in the Public Works yard. So that pipe is 108 inches in diameter. It's 9 foot tall, so it's almost one story tall. It carries an area of about 1.18 square miles, which is about 750 acres. So it's a big, big area. And then the design flow for the 100-year storm is 458 cubic feet per second. So if you could imagine a wall of water like 4.5 feet wide by 10 feet high, moving in increments every second, that much water passing through. So it does some substantial drainage. Now, some of the things that we did when we did the Public Works project, which was very important, was we created an auxiliary channel that you see down there. In the event that this thing was ever backed up or didn't work properly, the auxiliary channel can drain it, and we keep Public Works out of the floodplain, which that was the whole goal. So that's worked very successfully. So we've been using the stormwater fund to fund various projects over the years related to the Public Works culvert. So it's just a continuation of that. It is a corrugated metal pipe, which was done because that was the material at the time. In modern times, we use basically a rebuilding of that pipe by using a concrete lining. We put reinforcement in the pipe, and then we spray it with this concrete lining, and essentially you're getting a structural repair to the culvert. And then we're also doing what we call invert repairs, because most of the damage to the pipe occurs really in this section, if you can imagine, between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So if you just look at this picture up here that shows the process before it happens, this is the invert lining. So you can see the reinforcement on the bottom of there. They spray this, and then ultimately what it looks like is this section here. So you can see that the normal flow of the water, unless we have very large storm events, stays within this confines. And that's where we see most of the deterioration of the pipe. So if you address this problem before it happens, a pipe is like an arch. It derives its strength from the circular nature of the pipe. If you lose the bottom of the pipe, then the arch starts to collapse and the pipe fails. So by doing these and being proactive with this, it's something that's done well, and we just want to continue to stay on top of it. So if you look at the priorities, these are sort of the remaining priorities based upon the inspection that was most recently completed. We have some severely damaged invert, and the cost of that is approximately $59,000. And then we have a high priority of 45 feet of full diameter, and that's really under the main yard of the Public Works facility, where the cover on the pipe, the actual amount of fill on top of it, is not as significant. And over time and repetition, that starts to bow and create a problem. So we've been trying to make sure that we take care of those priority areas. So there's 45 feet of that. And then remaining still on the list is some medium priority repairs. Again, more invert work, and lower priority, just more preventive work relating to some of the coating, just to address rusting of the pipe in certain areas. So we're proactively really replacing this pipe over time. Cost a lot of money. Fortunately, this work is covered under CoStars. So we were able to get a quote from the people that have done this mostly in the past, which is National Gunite. They provided us a quote under CoStars, and we worked with the budget that was set up this year that we've had, which is approximately $151,000 that's gonna take to do the work this year. So the money is budgeted to come out of the storm sewer fund, and we'll take care of it. This just is a little snapshot to give you idea where the pipe is. If you look at this, it's in front of the main bays of the bigger garage and part of the expansion, and it sort of bows around. It's a total length of about 1,500 feet, so it's substantial in length. And you can see the auxiliary channel, which is just to the bottom, a little bit further to the bottom, that open white area that runs parallel to it. And then there's a second sheet here that shows its discharge point. It comes down past the new garage that was just installed, crosses under the secondary access point that we have into the facility, and then ultimately goes in front of the firing range through the big fill area, which is now landscaped in a partial park, and then it discharges down over the hill. And then that's the same point where the auxiliary channel comes together, and then they flow naturally from that point on out.
Yeah, and the part that you're talking about needs work, is that a part that was, so we replaced part of this pipe when we did the Public Works project.
Correct.
And then there was part like we ran into bad fill and that had to be redone and there was extra cost to some of that stuff.
Correct.
The part that you're talking about now, is that new pipe that was put in just when that Public Works building was
No,
done?
we focused a lot of the priority repairs in this area where the pipe was the deepest. If you can appreciate, the pipe is upwards of 40 to 50 foot deep in this area through the Monte Alberto, the old Monte Alberto. And it makes a turn up through here and through the parking lot. And then as it goes further up Cedar Boulevard towards the rec center, it starts to shallow up. So what we did was we focused most of the repairs through this area. And then as we go through and do inspection, because this thing changes from time to time, we're trying to do at least an annual inspection where people go in with air and everything else they need to go in, and they walk the culvert, and they do a full inspection just to make sure that it's in decent condition. So
Which parts on the overall thing, which parts were the parts that were done new when the Public Works facility was in?
there was some partial replacement up where it had the most shallow cover near the no garage bay. That would have been, let me get up to the next sheet. That was up towards the beginning of the pipe, but it wasn't very much. I mean, we didn't, the age of this pipe is oldest at the upstream end, because Public Works, when they put this in, they kept gradually adding pieces to it. That eventually it got the land area down there. If you went to permit this thing now, it'd probably be impossible to permit what we have. So, but that's the oldest section, which is up here. And I want to say, Craig, it was somewhere around station 400, between 200 and 400, that there might have been some partial replacement, but not a whole lot.
Did we do some replacement where we brought the new drive in?
Yeah, oh, well, that's a crossing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we had to put a pipe in there, Keith, because we had to carry the channel across there.
Correct.
Yeah, we put a new pipe across there.
Give some perspective.
So I
I'm
guess just trying to
it's-
understand how much is new, how much is old. I mean, like, my head is going to, like, I know we did some of it and we shouldn't be replacing pipe that's that new.
No, we're not replacing any pipe, we're just going in based upon the condition of the pipe. I mean, every year there's deterioration of the further deterioration of the invert because of the nature of the metal pipe.
Yeah.
So we're just going in and trying to proactively take care of things to the point where, I mean, based upon the repairs that are left to do, there's probably, another year or two left to do some of these repairs, and then it'll just be maintenance on an ongoing basis. So we've just been
This is
biting a little
like-
bit of the apple off at a time.
But this is like pipelining. I mean, essentially, we talk about
Yeah,
lining other pipes through. It
Correct.
just has a very large one.
right.
You don't have to line the pipe 360 degrees, to your point, just 5 to 7 PM at the bottom there.
Yes.
But it's essentially lining the pipe rather than putting it.
We have a document that I'll get to you that.
No, it's fine. I was just trying to understand.
It's like a color-coded thing that shows all the repairs that have been done.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just trying to understand the difference between what we're proposing now and how much or what percentage of that was installed in when the Public Works building was being done, right?
So, really, as Keith had said, that what we're gonna do is bring a quote in, an award through the Co-Stars program for about $150,000 at the next meeting to go ahead and do this work.
Great.
That's it.
That's 5 minutes. If you want to do boards and authorities.
Boards and authorities real quick? Sure. Thanks, Dan.
So meets tomorrow, the library board didn't meet, and what is, upcoming sale for,
Friends of the Library Mum Sale, September 6th.
thank you, mum sale.
Mom sales.
Mum sale, good mums too, let's go, buy them.
Thank you.
What else?
Historical Society has their fundraiser on September 11th. Tickets are on sale, so hopefully folks will attend. That's again the evening of September 11th.
Civic engagement has been talking about ICE coming in, and we've had consultations. Jason, Chief and I have talked about it, and so I think we're in as good of a place as we can be, let's put it that way, with understanding of what can happen, what might happen, what we can do, what we can't do. So.
Is that like a public thing at some point?
Well, it is public. We have all of our policies online. Section 414 deals with immigration, which essentially, and we reviewed it in an executive session, so we're all very aware of what it said. And that has been distributed to the public. I mean, it certainly through the civic engagement group so that they've seen it. We talked about discretion, and I, after thinking about this a long time, felt that discretion is an important thing for a police department to have, because there are elements of keeping other people safe and being witnesses to anything that's going on, and I trust that our police department can and will do that and do a good job of it. So, that, but it's the old planning for something that hasn't happened, I don't know, but
I saw
have faith.
I saw a post on social media, someone was commenting about, it was in another city, but they were commenting about obstructing DHS officers. And they made a comment like, there's no reason for DHS to be in our city, that kind of thing. And like, it's important for people to know that, a department like DHS, and I'm sure Chief gets these calls all the time, right? There's a lot more than just immigration that
That's right.
our chief and our police get calls about from federal departments, a lot more. Certainly a lot more than just immigration. So it's important that people understand that our police chief is involved at a very high level with law enforcement, and we get daily updates, multiple daily updates from enforcement agencies about a lot of things going on in our region that have nothing to do with some of the stuff that you might see on national news. So it's just not prudent for us to say that we are going to obstruct a federal organization, across the board. So I just want to say that. There's a lot of stuff on social media that's just, I don't think it's well placed. That's my comment. School board real quick, their strategic plan is done. They had public comment, all that's up on the website. A few teacher retirements, a couple new teachers in all the districts this year, some new principals, things like that. PTA is meeting on September 3rd, the big PTA council, which is open to the public, so if people want to join that, I think it's at Howe this time, and I think it's September 3rd. And then the school board has been expressing some interest in doing a little bit deep dive in sports and athletics, which may time up nicely with what we've been talking about on our fields and things like that. So more to come on that side of things. Oh, and outreach team, every year the school, brings in new, freshmen, things like that. They do outreach team, had a couple of representatives, and our police had our school resource officer did a great job at the new kind of welcoming the new students and go over what outreach team does and, reach out to the families there. And our school resource officer did a great job summing up what they do there in the schools and some of the people they've chatted with and programs that they work on. So nice job for those, two groups.
Yeah.